A few weeks ago, Supercell released a brand new piece of equipment that instantly became a hot topic in the community. It was hailed as one of the strongest additions to the game, enabling a crucial attacking strategy that let players get insane value with just a hero and a couple of spells. But recently, Supercell announced a major nerf to this strategy, and it's a big one. While it's understandable that the strategy was too powerful and needed balancing, there's a harsh reality here. The future nerfs may completely ruin the strategy. This has left players frustrated, especially those who spent precious ores and resources on the equipment, only to see it get nerfed just weeks later. Today, I'll break down what Supercell is trying to achieve with this move, whether it's a fair decision or just another cash grab, and what such random equipment nerfs and buffs could mean for the game moving forward. Could we be seeing a game where players don't trust the developers anymore? Let's dive right into it. At first glance, the nerfs don't seem all that significant. They even look fair, but we need to dig deeper to understand what Supercell intended with these quick nerfs, and possibly with future balance changes as well. First, let's break down the popular Royal Champion Walk or Charge strategy. This relies on three key components: the Royal Champion herself, invisibility spells, and in higher levels the Spirit Fox, and the Electro Boots equipment, often paired with the Haste Vial. The idea is to choose a side of the base to attack, ideally avoiding the Tornado Trap and Poison Towers, which can slow the Royal Champion down and reduce her value. Then, you send in the Royal Champion, switching between the Invisibility spell and the Spirit Fox's ability to keep her untargetable by defenses. Meanwhile, the Electro Boots funnel troops effectively and clear skeleton traps to prevent distractions. This strategy was incredibly strong, often clearing half of a base and creating a perfect path for the Grand Warden and main army to follow. Now, onto the nerfs. On paper, they don't seem too bad. The Electro Boots self-healing is reduced by 25%, and its area damage is decreased by a maximum of 20%. These changes might seem minor. After all, the Electro Boots can still one-shot skeleton traps, which was crucial to the strategy, and their surrounding damage is still decent. The invisibility spell's duration was also slightly nerfed, reduced by 0.25 seconds, meaning there's now a brief moment between Spirit Fox activations, when both the Spirit Fox and the Royal Champion can be targeted. But again, these tweaks seem small. The strategy should remain effective, just slightly less dominant. So why are players so upset about this update? The issue lies not in the immediate impact of the nerfs, but in how Supercell has handled the situation. In their blog post, Supercell justified the nerfs by stating, "The Electro Boots have been a bit too strong, becoming the most used equipment in the game. We're toning it down to make it more balanced." While this reasoning makes sense, consider the timing. By the time Supercell recognized the imbalance, countless players had already spent resources acquiring and upgrading the Electro Boots. These players could have spent their hard-earned ores on other items, like older equipment in the metal shop or magic items, to max out something more enduring. Worse, many players invested heavily in upgrading the Electro Boots because the stats scale linearly with each level, meaning even the expensive upgrades yield noticeable benefits. Now they're left wondering if those precious ores were wasted, especially if further nerfs are on the horizon. Some might argue that the ores are only wasted if the Electro Boots become unusable, and let's be real, the equipment is still strong. But for free-to-play players, who must carefully allocate their resources, the nerfs might feel like a betrayal. For instance, some players might already have strong alternatives, like the Hog Puppet and Haste Vial combo, which could provide similar value when paired with the Grand Warden and main army. These players could have skipped the Electro Boots entirely, avoiding the risk of investing in equipment that's now likely to face additional nerfs. After all, Supercell's reasoning suggests that the goal is to reduce the strategy's usage rate until it's no longer dominant. If that's the case, the long-term value of upgrading the Electro Boots is questionable. I found an interesting comment under Judo's video on this topic. It feels a bit like Supercell is just doing it for the money. Release a super OP new epic equipment, put ore offers in the shop, and then nerf it to the ground. This perspective isn't without merit. Supercell has used similar tactics in other games, like Brawl Stars, where they introduce overpowered content, promote in-game purchases, and then later adjust for balance. While this approach benefits pay-to-win players, it can frustrate free-to-play players who don't have the resources to adapt as easily. That said, I don't think this move was entirely about money. The Royal Champion Walk strategy has been around since the Spirit Fox was introduced with Town Hall 16. However, it only became mainstream with the release of the Electro Boots, which solved key issues like skeleton trap distractions and worse funneling. While the nerfs reduce its effectiveness slightly, the strategy doesn't depend entirely on the boots. The combo of Spirit Fox and invisibility spells still makes the Royal Champion walk viable, provided the Electro boots retain decent area damage. So I don't think Supercell intends to completely ruin the Electro boots with this nerf. Instead, they're likely aiming to bring the strategy back into balance. Let's not forget, we've seen similar balance changes before, such as those in September. Many pieces of equipment were adjusted during that update, becoming slightly less effective, but still very much usable. For example, the Spiky Ball found its place in the meta, and the Hog Rider Puppet became a strong option for players. This shows that even after nerfs, equipment can still hold value and adapt to new strategies. Supercell is clearly trying to rebalance the game and make defenses competitive again, which is a necessary move. However, they should take a closer look at how they handle new equipment. Ideally, they'd test these items more thoroughly before releasing them, or perhaps launch them in a weaker state and adjust later. Of course, that wouldn't generate as much immediate revenue. On the flip side, weaker items could end up ignored entirely, making balancing a delicate challenge. If Supercell continues to nerf equipment that players have just invested in, especially after only a week or two, it's hard to imagine players trusting future releases. Would you spend precious resources on new equipment, knowing it might be dialed back soon after? This trust issue could harm the game in the long run, putting the future of the game in potential danger.